Hello everyone and welcome back to video number 3 of the Mark Rober series. This video is my third build of Mark Rober's online class, and my build that I did this time is right here. Now before we get into explaining what this build actually does, I need to tell a story first. And that story is I run cross country. Cross country is a passion of mine, and I just genuinely love running and going out and just spending a long time being out running. And always we would do abs and push-ups after practice to help improve us with running. Before cross country practice, I really sucked at push-ups, and I could barely do like 5 before I would give up. During cross country practice, I was able to build up my push-ups to where I could be able to do 25 in a row. After cross country practice, I really wanted to maintain that strength and still be able to do push-ups, so I set an alarm on my phone every single day to remind me to do push-ups. This didn't really work as often. I would just ignore it or just push it aside, and so this machine helps me to do push-ups with a reward. So after plugging it in, I do 15 push-ups. And it dispenses me a piece of gum. This build is actually pretty simple and not too hard to build. All of these pieces you see here are just 3D printed parts that I made on CAD. All the parts will be in the description along with the instructions, the code, and the wiring job. These lids just simply rest on here, and I was able to 3D print these, and they just cover everything and make things look nice. Inside we have all of my wiring, so we have my breadboard, my Arduino, some wires, and my ultrasonic sensor. Then here on the side we have a space for the servo, and then here's where you'll place the gum in. You'll place the gum in here, and then it'll be able to slide out through this slot right here. Then I did put some holes in the side so that way I could easily change the code here and I didn't have to pull everything out. And I can also plug in the battery right here so that way I can turn it on without being hooked up to a computer. I did have to print these in 2 parts. As you can see, there's a little gap here, and I just used a little metal rod to attach those. So the build is not too hard, but the code and wiring was more complicated. The wiring job for this is pretty simple. I was able to find this picture online of how to wire stuff, and it's a super easy to build. But let's get into the code, which is a lot more complicated. I use 2 main codes throughout this build, and I'm going to walk you through both of them. The first code that you're looking at here is just a way for me to be able to look and see the distance that I'm getting back for my push-up height, so that way I know what my low position is and I know what my high position is. So in the beginning here we just define your pins, then these variables you need to have in there. Then in the void setup, I actually don't know personally what this does, but this needs to be there for the Arduino to work. And then in void loop there is a bunch of stuff that is for the ultrasonic sensor. It just sends out a pulse, and then it delays the pulse and doesn't send it out, and then receives it, and then the distance. How you're able to get feedback is if you go up top, go to tools, and then click serial monitor. This will give you a live feedback of what is going on with the ultrasonic sensor. This second code is a lot more complicated, and I actually had to write this myself to get everything working the way I wanted to, and I'm going to walk you through it so that way you understand. At the beginning, you define your pins and include your servo. Then you have some variables you need to put in. These right here, they're just for later in the code. Then the setup, again, this is for the ultrasonic sensor. This is just needs to be leave there. Also right here I put the servo and define that right here. Then for the void loop, again in the beginning I just have the code for the pulse the ultrasonic sensor sends out, and then the distance it gets back. Now this part right here is the actual main code that makes it able to count push-ups. What it does is there are 3 positions that I can be in. One is my low position, which for me is below 17 centimeters, and my high position, which for me is between 37 centimeters and 45 centimeters. Then the if else is for just if I'm above 45, so if I'm like standing up or just not doing anything, or if it's just on standby. So what this code looks for is it wants to look for me in the high position, then it needs to sense me in the low position, and then what it does is makes both of those statements true when you get in that position, and then it'll add 0.5 to the push-up counter. It's not 1 because as soon as you're down, it'll count true for the down and up position because you've made both of those true. Then it will reset both of those to false, but then it'll immediately send out another pulse and it'll catch you in the low state. So then when you go back to the high state, it'll count a second time as true, and then it'll add another to the push-up counter even though you've only done 1 push-up. So these numbers you can change for your own. So you change like the 37 and the 17 for whatever your push-up height is, and then you can also change the 45 just to give you a bit of a range that you need to be in. So this little part is for the counter. It waits till both are true, and then once both are true, it'll add 0.5 to the push-up counter and then just resets them to false. Then this final section here is for the servo. Basically, whatever you want your push-up counter to be, it'll wait until your push-up counter equals that much. For me, I just set it as 15, so if you are not as good as push-ups, you can set it to like 5, or if you're really good at push-up and you want to set it to 50, that's up to you, and then that'll just be however many push-ups you need to do before the servo will activate and give you a piece of gum. Then the code down here is pretty simple. It starts at position 0, moves it to 90, and then moves it right back to 0 degrees. And then once it is done, it resets the push-up counter to 0. This makes it so that way you are able to do like 30 push-ups for me, and then it'll dispense a second piece of gum once I've done the 30 push-ups. This code was pretty simple to write and pretty simple to understand, and all the links again will be in the description. Now I know a lot of people are thinking, can I just cheat and take the lid off to access the gum and not do the push-ups? And to those people, I say that if I was motivated enough to spend a couple days building and designing this, that I'm gonna be motivated enough to just do the simple 15 push-ups and get my piece of gum. This machine will help limit my gum intake, and also it will help me increase the push-up quantity to later, where in the code I'll bump it up to 20 push-ups and 25, and maybe I'll get up to 100, who knows. So guys, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I have really enjoyed Mark Rober's class, and I'm really liking the 3 builds I got out of it. I'm kind of sad that Mark Rober's class is over, but I will be filming one more Mark Rober video, and that'll be my overall analysis and my overall thought of how the class went, and anything you guys should know before taking the Mark Rober class. So be sure to stay tuned for that final video. If you missed the first 2 videos, you can go ahead and find that over here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.